Welcome back to another episode of the Sterilization Station. This is your host, Bill Rochelle. And today we have with us Deanna, and we're going to have a great conversation today about networking. And as many of you know, in sterile processing, technical skills, they matter, your certifications, they matter, and experience matters. But relationships and how to build relationships often become the bridge to leadership opportunities, education roles or mentorship, and even long-term career growth. And really excited to have Deanna with us today and looking forward to having a great conversation today around networking in sterile processing. So, Deanna, welcome to the station. It's been a long wait for us to get you on here, but I'm really glad you're here today.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me, and I appreciate the hard work you're doing, and I keep doing it.
Thank you. Yeah, been a really good year networking with different people and empowering, motivating, inspiring. I always like to say the heart and the mind, the soul of SPD, and just really, excited to see what this year holds for me, holds for you, and everyone else. And networking is a really important topic to me as well. I love, seeing different ones grow in their career, or even the students and the new techs being able to land a job and stuff like that. And so really interested to diving into this topic today. And what does networking mean to you as it pertains to sterile processing?
Well, networking to me means the opportunity to share new persons within the industry you're in, and also from other industries, other professions, and that could bleed into you, and vice versa. You could bleed into other persons where ideas where they may have to advance in their profession. Maybe that could give you some ideas to advance in your profession as well, and tips and tricks where you could use within your profession, things that may correlate between you and that person. Um, through industries such as maybe we're in healthcare, correct? So
Right, right.
you may get maybe somebody who's an engineer that might have some ideas on how to solve some issues. It may not be the exact same issues, but some of those tips and tricks may correlate to the profession we're in right now. So, and also you may get advice on how to approach different things, different situations, or different problems within your industry, and meeting another manager, another supervisor, another technician. Not with the keeping the assumption that we're on an island. There are other persons who have the same issues we have. There are other persons who are solving those issues. Maybe we haven't gotten to it yet. Other persons in podcasting that have excelled, we could get advice from. Other persons in mentoring, we could get advice from. And then we could share our pitfalls, and maybe that person may be ahead of us or maybe have had more success, but maybe there's one thing they're struggling with and you haven't had much success, but you're looking to it as well. So I think networking simply means to me opportunity to exchange ideas and grow no matter what the profession is.
That's really great. I know I've done a lot of networking, especially when, first becoming a new podcaster, I wanted to learn from different ones who have grown the business. And so just different sites I'm on to have podcasters learning to, share ideas, like you said, learn from them, glean from them. And so I think that's great. How has network how does how did networking impact like your sterile processing career?
Well, from the inception of my career, trying to find a job, meeting persons, especially my first class, I met a guy who was a rep, and he came to the class, and he opened my eyes on different aspects of what you could do in store processing. You started as a tech, you could become a rep, you could be a manager, supervisor, etc. You could branch out, work for industry company, not simply a hospital. And that was my first introduction to networking. Then came the seminars and conferences where you met a bunch of educated professionals and also uneducated professionals and see their pitfalls and struggles and being able to give them advice on how to solve those problems. And you get those managers and well articulate persons who come to the conference and know you think they know everything, and they share some of their ideas with you, and they push you into being more presenting creating posters, being a member of a chapter. You get that aspect of meeting new folks, and I think that was my first introduction into networking. First the class, then the conferences and seminars, and just getting to meet folks. And that was before the age of social media right now, where you could network with people from far away but seminars, conferences, and just taking different classes. I think that's a huge deal in terms of just getting started in networking. And then you don't have to say anything. All you have to do, the best way to start is just listen to those persons and see how they move about the room.
Yeah, that's really great, especially because nowadays you just go to LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok, and you
Hmm.
can meet people. I mean, and that with saying like the old school way was, I need to go to this chapter meeting or go to this seminar. So times have changed yet, but I see the benefit of all the ones who are going in real in person exchanges of information. So
Yeah.
that's really golden.
But I think simply putting yourself out there is the first thing. Being available for those opportunities, because some persons always look at the price and they have to use their time and et cetera, et cetera. But you have to make some sacrifice if you want to, reap the benefits. Everything can't be free. You have to invest in yourself, basically.
Yeah, that's great. No, that's serious because one conversation, even in passing, can change the destiny of your career, especially if you don't see yourself doing something. I mean, look at myself, right? It took a car accident for me to get a microphone and a headset to start podcasting. I never would have done this had I not been in a situation where, I didn't think I was going to be able to return back to SPD. So it's like now you become more creative because of a unforeseen circumstance. I could see having an exchange with someone about an opportunity, or even someone looking at you and knowing you and saying, "Hey, you should really try this because I think you would do good at it." And then and then it grows or blossoms into something. That's great. What do you think? What does professional networking look like in sterile processing? Of honing down to just sterile processing.
Yeah, and before I answer that question, I just want to say, shout out to you and your recovery and your dedication, to coming back into the field. And it's true that life has no limitations except the ones you put on yourselves. Thank you for making that full
Thank
recovery
you.
and
I
coming back.
appreciate you. Thank you.
The networking in SPD, but in a workplace, we can look at it from a couple of different standpoints. In a workplace, you definitely want to network with your peers, your coworkers. That's how you learn. You learn the SOPs and the competencies, etc. But you also learn through osmosis, through watching, interacting with your peers. There's some tips and tricks that may help you get your work done better that are not written down. So someone may go to a seminar, you may go to a seminar and may say, hey, someone gave the advice or pointed something out in AME, SD 79, 108, etc. Hey, this is what we should be doing. You can by communication, by looking at watching your coworker, by observing exactly what the best practices are, searching it, see if it's actually a best practice. That way you could be on top of your game within your facility, within your department on what you're actually practicing. Also, meeting with your managers, your supervisors, see what they know. You may want to be a manager supervisor one day. Networking with them, speaking to them, taking a little break or lunch with them, conversing and seeing exactly how did you get where you are? What did you do? What advice do you have from me? For me, you may not have started in this facility, but how did you work your way up? What did you do? And what should I not do moving forward to get into that place? Because everybody think it's just a snap of your finger and boom, I'm in leadership. No, it is. So sometimes there are failures. You try, you fail. Some people just get it like that. They walk in and they say, "Hey, you got it. You're supervisor next month." But for some folks, it's a learning process. And networking with your manager, supervisor, your executive leadership team, just walk by those offices. Say, "Hey, how you doing?" Have a little conversation. It might be about a vacation. It might be about Christmas holidays or family, but then you get to see how they correspond with you and the traits you may need to move into a role like that down the line.
Now, when we think about students, like a new sterile processing technician, like when should they start networking, or how and when should they start networking?
Oh, you have the best. If you have a good teacher, hopefully you do, a good teacher, a good instructor, you start networking with that instructor. How do I move from being a student to getting a job? How do I get my 400 hours if you know about the 400 hours? Because some, you know, persons don't let the students know about the 400 hours till they're ready to leave the class. But you want to know, hey, well, how do techs navigate? How can I navigate from being a student to being a technician to maybe being a lead, a supervisor. What I what is my potential within the field? And I think that's one thing a lot of instructors need to do. I'd say at least show folks not just the money side. You could be a tech, maybe tech one, tech two, depending on what the facility justifies in terms of technicians roles. Tech one, tech two, lead tech, advanced tech, supervisor, manager. You may have a liaison in there. You may have an educator in there. Network with your instructor for those roles, and maybe they could partner you with someone who has one of those roles so that you could get in there. Maybe a mentorship program would be good. You want to be a supervisor? Hey, I know a supervisor who works at the local children's hospital. I could partner you up with that. You might not get a job, but at least you could get to know, hey, this is how the role goes. This is what I need to, this is the level I need to get at down the line. You also network with those folks that alongside you, the other students, because you may have some zealous students that maybe get 90, 99% on every test. You're like, dang, I'm only getting 75. What's going on? Maybe network with them, see what their study styles are, see how they manage their job, their kids, their work life, and their personal life, and have time to study as well. So you may want to tap into that, network with those folks, see what other professions they're coming from, see what type of processes they're lining up to get a job down the line. So I think that's definitely thing for new persons coming into the field. And then when you get that initial job, you don't want to simply, as they say, be a tech. You want to be a resource for the team. You want to be that person that you want that, I'll do it. You want this, I'll do it. Because it's a learning process. After a while, then you'll settle down into exactly what your role is, but you want to learn everything. So don't turn down any opportunity you have. Um, because you may not end up being a sterile processing tech. You may end up in that, or you may end up somewhere else. You may someone in another department may see you and say, "Hey, person is attentive to detail, punctual, the great attitude. I want to give that person a role as a supervisor in logistics in another department." So just be mindful of that. You're being interviewed every day on the job and by multiple people.
Yeah, that's excellent. That's really good. There's so much you said about networking, whether when you're new, even networking with your teacher. I'm like, that was super good. Never thought about that. That networking begins with your instructor and leveraging their experience, their knowledge, and then even like working in the school with different students, different style of students that be trying to improve your grade. That's really, really good. What about, say I'm an introvert, what advice would you have for introverts who maybe are quieter, maybe they're not that person that's, like out in front, talkative, got that personality where they're just everyone knows that person is, an extrovert. I feel like I'm an extra extrovert, but when it comes to like an introvert, like what advice would you have on introverts as it pertains to network?
First piece of advice, you don't have to be great to get started, but you have to get started to be great. So that's a quote I learned way back when. So you have to get started if you want to get great. You can't hold yourself back. Like I don't like to put tags on anybody. The introvert tag, I don't like that because you may be introverted in one area, but you may be a wild guy in another area. So to label, I just don't like the labels because
That's good, really good.
there's some things you're comfortable with and some things you're not. Maybe you might not be
Yep,
comfortable with persons initially, but when people get to know you, you're a little more comfortable, right? And you're more outgoing, you're more outspoken. So the label of introvert, I tend not to characterize persons with labels because when you get to know persons, it's a different ball game. So
that's good. I like
yeah.
that. I really like
So
that. That's great.
just getting to know people and getting to feel comfortable, and that's different for everyone. Comfortability is different for everyone. Everyone doesn't feel comfortable under the same circumstances. You may have to be out of the department, out of work, and on the outside on your leisure time. Maybe you speak to somebody over the phone, and you say, "Hey, ah, this is a real person." But when you see them in a suit and tie at work or at a conference, you're like, "Okay, that guy is, on his game. I don't want to bother this person or that person." But, I think there's different levels. Like you just have to know how to break the ice, so to speak. Just walk up to a person and say, "Hey, how you doing?" But next time you see them, "Hey, that nice conversation we had last time." Just keep chipping away at it. You won't just be this outgoing person all of a sudden, especially when persons, sometimes you may get rejected by someone who you're respecting the field. One time you might say, "Oh, dang, this person just said hi," and they kept walking. Until you get into those shoes, you may not understand exactly how many things that person has gone through their mind, if they have an appointment, if they're running somewhere else. But just keep chipping at it, and then maybe one day you might speak to that person. Say, you remember that first time you ignored me when I approached you, and then you say, "Oh, yeah, 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 I was running to this meeting, or I had something else on my mind, or my department had a flood. I was trying to coordinate that over the phone." So you never know, but just keep chipping away at it. Introduce yourself to those persons, and then you may meet someone that may help you be introduced to those persons as well. Maybe you might know those five persons you really want to know in the industry, and you get to know this person. Say, "Hey, you know what? Let me let you meet my friend Dinar. Let me let you meet my friend Hank. let me." So you get to know those persons in those circles, and then they will help you move on to introductions to those other persons as well. So I don't, subscribe to the labels. It takes time. And just like a kettle on a stove, it'll take time to get hot. It doesn't turn on like your sterilizers, your low temp sterilizers, your steam sterilizers. It's not instant presto changeo. It takes some time to warm up. So and that's in real life too. So don't just expect all of a sudden you're just gonna step into the room. And there's a saying, be the thermostat, not the thermometer. You eventually you'll get to that point where when you step into the room, you you change the tone. Like if you quiet, persons are gonna be quiet. If you loud, persons are gonna get loud. You wanna be that person. But right now you may have to be the thermostat. If persons are loud, you might have to follow their loudness. But when they get on your level or when you get on their level, they'll be like, "Oh, the nod's cool, let's chill out right now." Or the nod's excited. We need to get on the dance floor. So you wanna be the thermostat and not the thermometer.
Yeah, that's really good. I'm really glad you mentioned that about labeling. Yeah, that's so true. That kind of like I'm the middle child, and for the longest time, I used to always say, "Well, this way, I'm that way." But I had a friend of mine who kind of, he thinks real outside the box or outside the norm, and he said the same thing. He was like, people say they have the middle child syndrome, but isn't that a choice? And so I love what you're saying. Yeah, labels definitely can be taken that way. So no, I appreciate you for shedding some light on that. That's really really good. I like that a lot. How important do you think it is to build relationships with the OR staff in leadership, and does this relate to networking at all?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think it's important. I think you need to get to know, at some point, get to know those people, get to know their names, or get to know their faces, where you could actually approach them and have a civil conversation. And your conversation should not only be when something breaks down or there's a missing instrument or something goes down in the department or something goes wrong or a case was delayed because of something. You should always find that, and that's what technicians, managers, supervisors, whatever always make time to, hey, anything I could do to help. Like how should I say that? You make those relationships in the good times, not the bad times, right? So when everything is working perfect and they don't need you, we only have a few cases, we could roll out that at 2:30 or it's an easy day. That's when you go up and say, "Hey, I know, nothing's going on right now. How can I help you? Are there any trays you need addressed? Are there any processes you need fixed? Like what's your issue right now with power case cards? What's your issue right now with what's your most troublesome tree?" Yeah, you do that on the downtime, so they remember that when things get busy, like they're not that bad. They actually pay attention to what's going on. So I think it's important mend those relationships during the good times when there are no issues, and then when those times get hard, your customers will remember that you served them well, and they may go easy on you during those.
Yeah, that's really good. I like that a lot. We used to have a position at one of the hospitals I worked at called a sterile processing liaison, and it
Mhm.
was someone who kind of ran trays, from SPD sterile storage to the rooms. They managed the turnovers. They worked with the service leads to make sure the preference cards were up to date, and any instrument like that needed to be added to a tray, or even meeting with doctors sometimes to determine like what's the best tray setups. I think that's really good in networking, and that position kind of had a lot of it was kind of interwoven like a net. You got the different pieces of the net that kind of like are kind of knitted against each other, but they're used like a net is used to catch something or to hold something. So makes me think about how networking does the same thing. It's what kind of holds the team together. It keeps the team, um, as one. So, yeah, I thought that was really, really good.
And I also want to say, we need to have our team show their faces in those spaces. Right? I know some in the past have in cell person leadership may discourage persons from going to the operating room, going to the clinic areas. But I think it's important that we put faces to our work. I think it's important, and if we train and teach our colleagues how to approach, how to speak to those persons in power, those persons in leadership, I think it would show a positive aspect of what we do, put faces to those persons. Because you see all, and not to put it in a negative light, but hopefully I spin it around good. You see those kidnap ransom shows. The first thing they say, you want the assailant, you want the person who kidnapped you to see you as a person, right? So that they won't kill you or to or
Right, right.
so you want them to empathize with you, talk to them about their family, talk to them about your situation, let them know your name, ask them their name, let them communicate. So I think it's on the same lines with that you want the OR, you want the clinics, you want them to know your team, you want them to know them by name, you want them to know this is Jennifer. Jennifer has 3 kids. She's coming to work on day shift. She has a elderly parent. Like you want them to know something, not all your personal stuff, but you want them to connect in some way with your team. Like they know, oh, this is John. John is pretty quick with this, that, and the other. He's good with
Yeah.
ortho. Anything you need from him, you reach out. So when somebody answers the phone, it's not just a name. They know who that person is. So I think networking on that aspect is definitely important. So I think we should all let our teams go to those areas and introduce themselves, have some kind of connection. Because I see it on my end too when I say, oh, John is going to be with you there. Oh, yeah, I know him. Even if John is not the best, but they know who I'm talking about and they know how to communicate with John because John isn't always quick with returns. So they can understand, okay, this day, John, I might have to call John 3 times, because
Yeah.
but you want them to understand who they're working with. Or you want to be able to have some kind of communication understanding of those person that person's work practices or work ethic, etc. So I think that's definitely important.
Yeah, and that was a great example too, because you're right. It's like, you're using an example of like the kidnapping with with the people, and they're real people, right? And it reminded me of that I wasn't at the seminar, but when Lindsey Brown passed, we were close and we had a good relationship. And she was someone that was present after my accident, checking on me and things like that. And I would reach out to her. But that message that she gave on time and how we're giving back patients, their family members more time, and it just really hit me pretty hard. Actually, I literally heard that and was like, wow, that was such a powerful message. But we are real people, right? The people we serve are real people, and we're real people. Getting to know each other is so important. Like even team building activities where like maybe we submit some information about ourselves, like who we are, family, basic information, and kind of like see if you can guess who this person is. Like as a team building activity, like we've done that where you write down a few things about yourself on a card and then they read it and it says like, I like to podcast, I like to do this or whatever. So I think that's good too to get to know each other. That was really good when you shared that. And then
Thanks.
and I was thinking too about just conferences and events. What are your thoughts about are they worth attending?
Yeah, they're worth attending. So yeah, so I think it's more than worth it. I think that's like the fertilizer for your career, like the conferences, the seminars. That's where you get like it's like going to Home Depot. It's like going to get your your bag of fertilized soil. That's how I have this crazy analogy. It's like going to Home Depot, getting your bag of soil. That soil you could plant your from your smallest plants to your largest potted plants. Like this is where you're growing from. So I think that the conferences definitely your first time you're going to be overwhelmed, you're going to see persons you haven't seen, persons you wanted to see, you won't have enough time to have some of those conversations, but then again you may have 1 or 2 times where you meet that person in between time where You get some insight. You get to, ask some questions or get some insight on how persons think, right? And also in those local seminars and chapter seminars where you could meet your speakers and ask them questions and maybe go out to lunch with them or during the break and lunch speak to them about what your real needs and queries are about within the industry. Should I be doing this? Should I use this indicator? And then you get the vendors too, who are able to help you out. You the multitude of vendors throughout the industry who are able to help you out, point you in the right direction. If you don't see one product you like, there's another one. You turn around, you see another one that's similar, that has different parameters, that's close. You see one instrument, you see another one that fits what you want. So, and then you might not even need just one. You might say, hey, this guy has this thing that works this way. This guy has another thing that I need both of them because my department isn't one dimensional. I need more than one product to make my department work. So you could use multiple items similar from different companies. And then you network, you find out companies have different items that you didn't even know about. Like, oh wow, y'all have this. I had this, I have this problem. This is exactly what I need. So I think the conferences definitely, and then participating in them to post the presentations, eventually presenting, etc. And then you get that motivation from those persons you see that are where you want to be. So I definitely think you can't miss out on those. Even the online networking too, the online seminars, webinars, etc. I think those are important. And shout out to the in-person events like the Top Golfs and the marathons and stuff. And I'm definitely inviting you to this year's if you're able to make it. So those online events also help you see insights. It's not always just SOP or ST79 or competency or this is what we do and this is what we know don't do. Don't use brushes. Use these brushes. Use boroscopes. So you could actually see conversations from folks in the industry and what their opinions are. And everybody doesn't think the same way. So you may get one person say, I like this, I don't like this, I like this, I don't like that, but you get the reasoning behind it. And it's not always, I want this way, this is how it has to be. You get reasoning. So we could do this, but you have to look at these other factors. Or we could do that, but we have to look at these factors. So you get to understand. And I think knowing and understanding why we do what we do is important, not simply just reading the pages in the book. Understanding exactly why we're not pulling the load out with this sterilizer and why are we keeping it in this sterilizer, why are we pulling it out right away in this sterilizer? Like, what's the difference? Like, persons don't understand why in this integrator we have to put it on the top shelf and this one we put it on the bottom shelf, and why this sterilizer we put it here and we only have 225 pounds in this one and that one is a 350. Persons just follow the rules, but they don't understand exactly why they follow the rules. So I think there's a big gap in the industry with the why we're doing this, performing these practices too within our spaces and the conferences and the networking and all this, gathering, all those gatherings help persons understand the why. And then maybe we're able to articulate our stances better, especially if we're tech to leadership or leadership to our technicians on why we're performing these things. It's not just on black and white paper that we're passing around that this is what we're supposed to do. And, as they say, this is what we've always been doing and this is how we're going to do it moving forward. But we have a why behind it.
That's really good. In precepting my students, I always try to explain to them the why. And sometimes, like sometimes I go to educational local conferences in the area, and I've learned some more about the whys and some things that I didn't understand. So I think, yeah, going to the conferences are really, really important. And that's something I want to do more of is trying to get to not just the local conferences, but going to the actual like HSPA conference. So I think that's really good and what you're saying about understanding the why as well. Very good. How useful do you feel like social media, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, how useful are these technologies in helping you to network as well?
There's so much, so much, so much. So, social media is a tool. And you kind of have to know how to use that tool to get what you want out of it. If you want it to simply be a leisurely thing, that's fine. If you want it to work for you and share a message, you could do that too. But I think with the online, in terms of education, social media is really good, but you just have to be aware. There are no filters. I could come and say, hey, well, 4 minutes, 30 minutes should be the basis for all sterilization. You shouldn't be running anything over 430. And if you're doing that, you're out of compliance. And my video could get 1 million views, right? But does that mean it's true? No, right? So we have to be mindful, always research what we see or what we hear on social media because it's not always true. I mean, it may be hot. Whoever is telling it to us may be the best, brightest, whatever, but everyone makes mistakes. So just if everyone makes mistakes, don't go to your department and say, "Hey, I saw the nod say this," and no, go to your go to your standards,
Follow
look it
your
up,
hospital policy.
follow your hospital policy. Don't get right. Who's the nerd? Oh yeah, the guy on TikTok. He said we shouldn't do this. So
That's so funny, man. You know, what's so funny, real quick. Sorry, real quick. What's so funny is how quick people are on social media automatically in sterile processing have become like consultants and experts, right? But this is the funniest. On Facebook, you can hide behind anonymous, so
yeah,
it'll be like Chipmunk 723 says. I'm like,
right.
you don't even have the courage to put your name up there, but you're so quick to talk about what I'm posting.
Yes,
That's hilarious.
and they will say, "Hey, I would never come to your facility. Your facility is doing that. I will never come to your facility." But if you go to their facility, it's a whole different ballgame, right? So everyone thinks they're doing it the best. That's one thing. Everybody always thinks we're doing this the best. We would never do this. We'd never harm a patient. But they're not using the ultrasonic correctly. They're not following the IFUs correctly. There are a bunch of things people don't do that they don't know they're doing it. Everybody just thinks they're the best. Everything is being washed with utility water, but we're following the IFUs. Like, so you can't judge. That's one thing I learned. Like, every facility has an issue. There's no perfect facility. There's no facility doing everything 100%. So to come on Facebook and judge someone, or to come on any other social media site and judge someone, say, "Hey, you're doing it wrong." I always say what I try and look, with my years of growth, I always look at things from a different perspective. What if I'm wrong? Right? So I always ask the question. The question may seem like a comment, but I always ask, like, why do you think this is this? Or I'll give my opinion. Well, I don't think this is this, but I could be wrong, but I would state it, but I wouldn't condemn that person for putting out that idea because it's everything on social media. I look at it as an idea. You don't have to believe everything that's said, but I think it's an idea that person is putting out there, and there's a conversation to be had on every idea that's put out. And then you could challenge it or you could accept it. But I think it's a conversation starter, and you could disagree, but I think everyone should respect everyone's idea. You could fact check it and validate on your own and say, you know what, that's wrong, and try and correct them. But how often are you going to correct someone with a couple back and forth messages? They're probably not going to change their mind, right? So you have to be
Right, right.
mindful with that. Just share what you want to share, but the back and forth try and change someone's mind on what they believe, that's probably not going to happen. But just ensure that you have the latest information and you're not going back and forth with something you're ignorant on yourself, trying to say, well, 10 years ago we did this and I don't believe it's being changed now. So, just be mindful of that. I think social media is a place for persons to come closer together. I'm reaching persons on the West Coast, on the East Coast, in Africa, in Puerto Rico, in the Caribbean, all over the world. So I think it's a place where everyone could have a platform and echo echo their sentiments on how the industry is changing and moving forward. And then you'll always get those negative Nancy's within the field talking about this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong. And there's no perfect industry. In construction, people make mistakes. There are buildings falling down everywhere. When you after a building settles, there are cracks. In food and nutrition, you might get a roach, a rodent, a rat somewhere. Your meal might not have enough salt. Your meal might be a little undercooked. Your steak might come out a little charred. Like, there's no perfect nothing in healthcare. You already know. Sometimes nurses are short staffed. They're working overtime. Think about the restaurants. You think the restaurants are fully staffed all the time? They might not have a guy for dishes. Your chef calls out. You have the backup chef there. The waiters are calling out. It's a holiday season. Like, there's no perfect industry. So because we're in this one, we're looking at all the, like, oh my gosh, why isn't this happening? But there's no any industry you go in, even Walmart. You have two cashiers, 40,000 square foot store. and everybody's trying to go through Turkish. You think you have no problem? You have nobody stocking the shelves. Like every industry has problems. So we gotta be mindful. We're in this one and we're closed minded and we're focused on this one. Oh my God, there's a roach in the break room. There's a this. Oh, this is a facility that the trash should be taken out every time. Like, but there's no perfect industry. There's no perfect industry. And we have to realize that we're gonna have issues and there's always room for improvement. But we try to make it happen.
That,
That's not
that's crazy.
that's not
That's crazy.
issue specific to sterile processing.
Yeah, no, for
You
sure.
know
Yeah,
that
there's
we
absolutely, absolutely.
it's
That's
everywhere. It's
funny.
like there are
Yeah,
issues
that's so true.
everywhere. I know we're taking care of patients, not to put it lightly, but it's something we want to do. We may have missing instruments, we may have issues with sterilization parameters and having enough instrumentation for procedures. We may short an anesthesiologist. There's a shortage with anesthesiologists. It's like every industry has its own problems, and we navigate that and we do our best for these patients every single day. So don't be bummed because you install a person and not it's not working out.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's good.
Every There's room for change and room for growth. So either you part of the change in the growth or you gonna criticize it till the end of your days because they're always going to have issues. There's no perfect situation. Patients are going to start paying more. Technicians are going to start getting paid more. Some technicians are getting paid less. There's a pay discrepancy. If you're on the East Coast, if you're in the Midwest, those are issues we're always going to have. There are always going to be conversations around those issues. But the main thing is that we're doing what we can right now. And to even the playing field, there are facilities that can do more that are not doing more. We have to acknowledge it. There are persons who work in self-processing that you can do 5 trays, you do 2 trays. There are persons that could work better. There are managers who could manage better. There are surgeons and doctors and OR professionals who can communicate better. There are plenty of places within the industry that we could work on and get better on. But this is a field that I'm happy to be part of, and there's always room for growth. And I think what we need to look at and not look at how, oh my goodness, it's not as good as it could be right now. No, there's from 10 years ago, 20 years ago, we have seen a lot of growth. And I think social media is definitely helping that.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's excellent. Absolutely. I definitely agree with you. I've seen some of my students that I'm coaching land externships and jobs just through, I was encouraging them just use social media, create a video, create a post, be consistent. And they're calling me like, Bill, it worked. I got an externship and I got hired before I even got the externship at another place. So I do see that social media is a great way to connect, whether it's through just learning from people. I mean, I met Carol Malone through there, and I mean, she's given me some great resources, helped me with some competency drafts. And so there's a lot of great people that can help you if you need something that are willing to, like yourself, you taking calls sometimes, just being there, someone that you can talk to has been really great. What mindset shift helped you become more connected professionally? Was there a mindset shift? Was there a moment that you realized, like, man, this networking or is like that when it became beneficial to you? Was there a moment when you realized the power of it?
Well, networking. I always thought that networking was the way to go. Because I don't know everything. In fact, I don't know anything. That's how I feel sometimes. So yeah, so I always felt that was a funny joke, but I always feel that networking and meeting those people, especially persons that encourage me to be more than what I could be. I felt that like I met Sharon Green Golden in my first seminar. She was like, "Yeah, you need to do more." I'm like, "Who's this lady trying to tell me do more?" And I'm already at the conference. Why she tell me do more? I paid her like $1,000 to be here. I'm doing more than everybody else. Um, she encouraged me to do more in terms of coming to conferences and participate in poster presentations, etc., etc., etc. So, I was the first person who actually looked at me and said, Denard, you could do more than what you're doing now. So I appreciated that, and that happened by me investing my own money into going to a conference. So you never know who you're going to meet and who's going to inspire you into doing those things. And every year she met me, she's like, "What you doing now? What are you getting into now?" And I'm like, "Dang, I need to be doing something because she's on me." So I felt that the need to grow, to do more than what I was doing. And after that, I felt the urge. And I think the main thing, I think in life in general, you get the most fulfillment by helping others. And that's where I got the most fulfillment, going on mission trips. A trip going on right now soon. I don't want to give it away yet, but I'm going on mission trips to Jamaica, Guatemala, and giving back, I think, is the most rewarding thing in life. I mean, keeping all the money to yourself and not sharing it with your family and friends, it's lonely. It's lonely. You have to, I think giving back is the greatest reward. Or the most selfish thing is giving back because it makes you feel so good. So I definitely think from conferences to the departments, just networking in general, meeting new people or being in the space of new energy is rewarding in general. And you will come out there knowing something. There will be a click that'll pull you in like, hey, let's get Denard over here. Let's get Bill over here. I think he'll be receptive to this information. Let's just have him in the conversation. What does your department do with this wrap? What kind of wrap do y'all use? What kind of sterilizers do y'all use? Do y'all clean your autoclaves weekly, monthly? Like little conversations like that gets you diving into additional information and prodding into ways you could fix items. How do you do a matrix? How do you hire new people? How do do you have a manager and a supervisor? Do you have a educator or trainer? Like how does your department work? Who trains? Who does the competencies? Like these little conversations help you build rapport, helps you build your knowledge base within the system, within the industry. So when you go back to your health system, you could say, "Hey, I got this idea. Well, we could hire educator or trainer, or we could split these responsibilities out for the three lead techs or the two supervisors, or we could, it gives you a broader way of thinking and addressing issues in general. And then you could say, hey, it's not my experience, but I heard this facility in California had some water quality issues. They had black specks, and this is how they fixed it. Or they had wet loads, and this is how they fix it. So it might not always be your experience, but you could learn from others' experiences as well.
Yeah, no, that's great. You gave out a lot of information today. You shared a lot of your experience. You said what works well, some things that, we should or shouldn't do. So I think this was really, really great. And as you know, sterile processing is a technical profession, but careers are still built through people, right? Your knowledge may get you hired, but your relationships is what determines, how far you're going to grow. Whether you're brand new to sterile processing or stepping into leadership, remember this: every conversation, every interaction, and every connection matters. Your network isn't about popularity. Someone once said, your net worth is your network. And I thought that was really, really good. So, really appreciate you coming on the show today. I know this will not be your last time. Really excited to hear about some of the trips you have coming up, some of the things you're doing.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Anytime, I'll be back. If you'll have me again, I don't know. I'm not sure how good I did, but I'll definitely be back if you have me back.
Oh man, I loved it. You had me. I don't think I ever cracked up this hard on my episode. You definitely, we're on a roll and sharing some really good stuff there, and it's comical, but it's true. Sometimes I think a lot of times the most comical things are because it's true. And so no, I think that was really, really great. So thank you for your time, and please, if you're listening, like the video, share the video, stay tuned for more episodes. We're ramping up the sterilization station. We're coming back. We took a little bit of a break, but we're coming back. So stay tuned. We got a lot of guests lined up, and we'll definitely see you soon. And once again, Deanna, thank you for coming.
All right, brother. Take it easy. Peace.
That was